After his acquittal in 2005, Michael Jackson retreated from the world. He abandoned Neverland Ranch, rarely gave interviews, and left the United States. He spent time in Bahrain as a guest of royalty, then bounced between Ireland, Germany, and eventually Las Vegas. Public appearances were scarce. Financial problems mounted. And yet, to his most loyal fans, he was still the king. In 2009, Jackson announced a comeback tour called This Is It. 50 shows scheduled at the O2 Arena in London. The world was watching. He rehearsed obsessively. But just weeks before the first show, on June 25, 2009, Jackson was found unconscious in his rented mansion in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles. Despite efforts to revive him, he was declared dead at the age of 50. The cause of death, acute propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication, administered by his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, who would later be convicted of involuntary manslaughter. For many, that was the end of the story. Michael Jackson died legally innocent. No criminal conviction had ever been recorded against him. His fans mourned. Memorials were held worldwide. His posthumous releases, including This Is It Escape and various reissues, sold millions. The 2010 saw a partial restoration of his image. Radio stations played his songs again. His estate paid off debts and even became one of the most profitable in the world. But then, a decade later, the accusations returned from two men who had once sworn under oath that Michael Jackson had never abused them. Their names were Wade Robson and James Safechuck. Wade Robson was a choreographer from Australia who met Jackson when he was 5 years old. He had appeared in Jackson's Pepsi commercials, performed at his concerts, and maintained a close friendship with him throughout his youth. In the 2005 trial, Robson was one of Jackson's strongest character witnesses. He testified under oath that Michael had never acted inappropriately toward him. He said he had spent many nights at Neverland and was never molested. That testimony helped Jackson secure his acquittal. But in 2013, Robson filed a lawsuit against the Jackson estate. He claimed that Jackson had molested him repeatedly between the ages of 7 and 14, and that he had lied under oath due to years of manipulation and psychological control. Robson said it wasn't until he had a mental breakdown in 2011, followed by therapy and fatherhood, that he realized he had been abused. He claimed Jackson groomed him to protect the secret, and that he hadn't fully understood the trauma until adulthood. His lawsuit was filed just 4 years after Jackson's death, but it was dismissed in 2015 on statute of limitations grounds. A judge ruled Robson had filed too late. His claims, while emotionally potent, were not legally actionable. James Safechuck had also met Jackson as a child, starring in a 1987 Pepsi commercial with him. He alleged that Jackson began molesting him when he was 10 years old, during the Bad Tour. Like Robson, Safechuck claimed the abuse continued for several years, in hotel rooms at Neverland Ranch, and even in a room behind a hidden closet inside Jackson's bedroom. He also claimed Jackson staged a mock wedding ceremony, complete with vows and a ring. Safechuck had never testified during the 2005 trial. But in 2014, after Robson's lawsuit gained attention, he filed one of his own. His complaint, too, was eventually dismissed in 2017 for being untimely. But both men continued their fight, this time through the media. In January 2019, HBO premiered a 4-hour documentary titled Leaving Neverland, directed by British filmmaker Dan Reed. It premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, prompting walkouts, standing ovations, and immediate outrage. Leaving Neverland gave Robson and Safechuck a platform to tell their stories in raw, graphic detail. They spoke of sexual abuse that allegedly took place over years, often when their parents were nearby but unaware. They claimed Jackson used secrecy, emotional intimacy, and fame to manipulate them. They described late-night encounters, phone calls, and the mental breakdowns they suffered later in life. The documentary was one-sided. No counterpoint, no defense attorneys, no family members of Jackson were interviewed. It presented the story as fact. It was emotionally devastating and deeply unsettling. Within days of its release, the backlash was swift. Some viewers were horrified. Radio stations in Canada and the UK pulled Jackson's music. Certain schools dropped his songs from their curriculum. Oprah Winfrey hosted a special with the two men, stating that this transcends Michael Jackson, that was about the broader issue of grooming and childhood sexual abuse. But critics and fans pushed back hard. Almost immediately, factual errors and contradictions in the documentary began to surface. James Safechuck claimed he was abused in the Neverland train station from 1988 to 1992. But architectural records revealed the station wasn't built until 1994, after the alleged abuse had ended. Wade Robson said Jackson had excluded him from the dangerous tour in favor of Macaulay Culkin. Yet video footage and tour documentation proved Robson had performed on that tour. Court records showed Robson had actively sought jobs and roles with the Jackson estate, including directing a Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil show, before filing his abuse claim. Critics accused him of being bitter after being rejected. Supporters of Jackson argued that the entire documentary was based on improving claims, aired without cross-examination, and weaponized for profit and publicity. Even Jackson's family responded publicly. His nephew Todd Jackson and brothers Marlon, Jackie, and Tito condemned the film, stating it was character assassination. They pointed out that both accusers had sworn under oath that nothing had happened and that Michael wasn't alive to defend himself. In March 2019, the Jackson estate filed a $100 million lawsuit against HBO for violating a non-disparagement clause in a 1992 concert agreement. The estate alleged the film was a posthumous character assassination based on discredited accusations. The legal battle dragged on. In 2020, an appeals court allowed the lawsuit to proceed. HBO tried to dismiss it, but lost the motion. As of 2023, the case remained unresolved. In the end, leaving Neverland didn't answer the question of guilt or innocence. It reopened a wound and reignited a global debate. Some believe Robson and Safechuck are telling the truth, that their stories reflect the classic patterns of grooming and trauma-induced memory suppression. Others see them as opportunists who change their stories for money, media exposure, or revenge. Michael Jackson never had the chance to respond. He died legally exonerated, but the court of public opinion remains divided. Was he a misunderstood genius, destroyed by lies, or a predator who used his fame to get away with the unthinkable? We may never know, but the legacy and the controversy will never fade.